Good evening and welcome to MITV Primetime News. My name is Teresa Ateyemi. The National Assembly has urged the Supreme Court to dismiss the suit filed by 11 People's Democratic Party governors challenging the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. The federal legislature, in its response, contended that the plaintiff's suit was procedurally flawed and lacked merit. The National Assembly said this in a preliminary objection dated April 22, 2025. It argued that the court lacks the jurisdiction to entertain the suit and should award 1 billion naira in costs against the plaintiff for filing what it termed a frivolous and speculative suit. All 11 states in the suit asked the Apex Court to determine 6 constitutional questions, including whether the President of Nigeria can lawfully suspend or interfere with the offices of a governor and deputy governor and replace them with an unelected appointee under the guise of a state of emergency proclamation. They further requested the court to determine whether the Attorney General Trek, acting on behalf of the president, to suspend the offices of governors and deputy governors by virtue of such proclamations contravenes the provisions of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and principles of constitutional federalism. The plaintiff also questioned whether the National Assembly could approve a state of emergency proclamation, including suspension of state executives and legislatures by a simple voice rather than the constitutionally required 2/3 majority of all members of each chamber. The Nigerian government has reaffirmed its commitment to deepening strategic ties with the European Union as the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development (EBRD) prepares to open its first West African office in Lagos. Vice President Kashim Shettima, during a visit by EU Ambassador Gautier Mignot, hailed the move as symbolic of Nigeria's great openness under President Bola Tinubu's reform-driven leadership. Shettima cited the removal of fuel subsidies and exchange rate unification as key steps in improving Nigeria's investment climate. He also praised the EU's humanitarian role in conflict zones like Borno and Stress. He also stressed Nigeria's interest in revitalizing youth empowerment initiatives. Ambassador Mignot reaffirmed the EU's commitment to fair trade, mutual respect, and regional partnership, stating Nigeria remains our priority partner. However, in a separate meeting, Vice President Shettima welcomed a South Korean consortium's proposal to invest in solar technology, electric vehicle manufacturing, and IT security infrastructure. He assured the Asian Economic Development Committee of the government's readiness to support initiatives promoting technology transfer and industrial development.
Be rest assured that here in Nigeria we value, we cherish our relationship with Europe. Most especially from my antecedents as a former governor in Borno State. I knew the prominent role that the EU played in stability and in humanitarian support to Borno State. On behalf of my boss, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I want to thank you for the wonderful burgeoning relationship between the EU and the Nigerian nation. Feel at home. We are essentially one people tied to a common destiny. A relationship that started in the 1440s with the Portuguese. It's not something that you can wish away overnight, but to build on that relationship. Trade and investment. More than ever before, Nigeria is ready for business. So all encumbrances towards investments in this country is being gradually eliminated. So we all need each other. The world has become a global village. It's mightily impossible to disentangle centuries of relationship.
The EU-Nigeria relationship, it's very important in the troubled time that the world is going through, to have reliable and constant partners, and this is what the EU wants to be with Nigeria, and at the same time the EU sees Nigeria the same thing and a very key partner in the 21st century. We have a lot already ongoing in many areas, in trade and economy, in peace, security and defense, in cooperation, in humanitarian aid. But there is an untapped potential in our relationship that we want to exploit. And so we want to engage more closely at all levels with Nigeria in the coming months and years.
Okay, could you be more specific about those?
Particularly through what we call a global gateway strategy, we want to articulate our partnerships or cooperation efforts to leverage investments, particularly with the private sector, and of course with the Nigerian policies, with the policies of the federal government, in areas like green economy, agriculture, renewable energy, digital innovation, health. And so we had a very interesting exchange with His Excellency the Vice President, who really has a very deep knowledge of the relationship and
the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and Women at Risk International Foundation, WARIF, has signed a Memorandum of Understanding on enhancement of SGBV healthcare service in Nigeria. The Minister of the Ministry, Iman Sulaiman Ibrahim, made this known on Tuesday during the singing ceremony held in Abuja. Iman noted that it is indeed a milestone towards strengthening Nigerians' response to sexual and gender-based violence faced by women and girls in Nigeria. She emphasized that partnership with WARIF for strengthening capacity building, policy reform, creating of nationwide awareness, and encourage more survivors to seek help without fear. Iman further reaffirmed a commitment in ensuring the survival of sexual violence will no longer left to suffer in silence, but giving access to survivor-centered, high-quality healthcare and support services across Nigeria. Also speaking was the founder of Women at Risk International Foundation, Dr. Kemi Del Silva, who highlighted that women and girls lack social welfare to meet their needs, adding that partnering with the ministry will be transformative change, free healthcare service for affected women and girls of sexual violence across the 6 geopolitical zone.
The start of a wonderful partnership between the NGO WARIF and the Federal Ministry of Women's Affairs. The signing of the MOU today signifies WARIF's commitment towards transforming the lives of women and girls affected by sexual violence, rape, and child abuse in all regions of the country in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Women's Affairs. The women and girls that endure these acts of violence typically do not have essential services adequately provided for them. Neither do they have the judicial system that supports them, nor do they have social welfare to address their needs. Our organization's partnership will ensure the establishment of sexual assault referral centers that provide all of these services. And these services will be provided for free of charge.
Today marks more than just the signing of a document, but a significant milestone in our shared journey towards strengthening Nigerians' response to sexual and gender-based violence. It marks our collective commitment to ensuring that survivors of sexual violence are no longer left to suffer in silence, but given access to survivor-centered, high-quality healthcare and support services across our nation. This partnership leverages WARIF's remarkable expertise through its health pillar, particularly the groundbreaking work establishing and operating sexual assault referral centers. Today, we aim to build a future where every survivor has immediate access to professional, compassionate, and comprehensive care. Through this strategic collaboration, we are setting out to achieve four core goals: capacity building by enhancing the skills and capabilities of healthcare providers, case managers, frontline responders who will ensure that survivors are met with professionalism, sensitivity, and support at every point of service delivery. Secondly, policy reform. Together, we will drive reforms that strengthen national framework.
In a bold move to stem the migration of healthcare professionals, the federal government has launched a 110 billion naira intervention fund aimed at revitalizing infrastructure in Nigeria's medical schools. The initiative, announced by Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa in Abuja, includes 70 billion naira for upgrading medical schools to international standards and 15 billion naira for new student hostels, while 76 institutions will receive cutting-edge medical simulation centers. Dr. Lause also disclosed plans to mandate universities to increase medical admission quotas to meet both local and global healthcare demands. Minister of State for Education, Professor Shuaibu Ahmad, however, reiterated the government's commitment to improving medical training facilities through the TEDFund, acknowledging long-standing challenges in the sector. Meanwhile, the TEDFund board chairman, Mansari Aminu, called for consistent investment over 5 years and urged university leaders to prioritize national development. The executive secretary, Aksoni Echono, also described the intervention is timely and essential for strengthening the nation's health education system. The newly inaugurated monitoring committee, led by Professor Sulaiman Alabi, further pledged to execute its mandate with transparency and dedication.
I think we should sustain this. I don't like this idea of one-off. It doesn't solve problem. I think it is in us that we don't like long-term investment. If we can take the next 5 years investing in medical sciences alone, the difference will be clear.
But the intervention will go a long way in solving some of the challenges facing the health sector in the country. The provision of critical manpower in the health sector remains a huge challenge, and it's often exacerbated by the bypassing job. The problems of insufficient and unqualified medical personnel leading to high doctor-patient ratio and all the other indices that we are not very proud of have lingered for far too long.
We are all aware the state of medical education infrastructure has faced many challenges in recent years, and it is no secret that a well-equipped medical school is fundamental to ensuring that our doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers are trained to deliver quality care to our people. The government, through the intervention of TEDFund, has demonstrated its unwavering commitment to improving these facilities. This initiative seeks to rehabilitate and upgrade medical schools across the country, ensuring the next generation of healthcare professionals are trained in state-of-the-art environment that reflect global best practices.
It is indeed a great occasion because this intervention is quite appropriate at this time. The issue of health is very important, and so medical education will be boosted by this intervention. And we hope and pray it's just the beginning. It's going to continue with other sectors, not only medicine, pharmacy, health science, nursing, and so it will certainly, with this government, it's just the beginning. So it's going to have a boost in expansion. We are now talking about increasing the capacity. There is a committee ongoing now on how to increase capacity in the universities.
We will carry out diligently in line with the renewal agenda of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu this part under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Education.
Each of these 18 institutions will get 4 billion naira of the tax money. I think we should acknowledge that. And we're very careful that as we expanded, to improve facilities to admit more students into medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, and nursing. When LPCN people come, when the nursing and medical can come, we don't have enough of that. So each of these institutions will also get 750 million to build and we're building 8 simulation labs across the country. And we carefully selected 6 of the institutions to get one. 6 of the 18 institutions to get one simulation back. We have to cascade the number of students we're admitting. Then,
in another development, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has called on Nigerian women to speak out and seek medical help promptly when facing health challenges. She made this appeal while receiving a delegation from the National Task Force on Cervical Cancer Elimination, led by the Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Isiaq Salako, at the State House. Senator Tinubu emphasized the importance of early detection in combating disease like cervical cancer, noting that there should be no shame in seeking help. In a significant move to support the fight against cervical cancer, the First Lady, through the Renewed Hope Initiative, donated 1 billion naira to the National Cancer Fund. The gesture coincided with the 2025 World Health Day themed Healthy Beginnings, Hope for Future. Dr. Salako, however, commended the First Lady for her advocacy, particularly for championing the introduction of the HPV vaccine into Nigeria's routine immunization program, which enabled the vaccination of 12 million girls aged 9 to 13 within the first 9 months. Chairman of the Task Force and former Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, also praised the First Lady's uncommon political will in supporting the vaccine rollout and urged her to continue leading the campaign.
On cervical cancer elimination and the establishment of the High Advocacy Committee on the Elimination of Cervical Cancer in Nigeria. We are deeply honored and eternally grateful to you, Your Excellency, for graciously accepting to personally chair this esteemed committee, a testament to your unwavering commitment to cervical cancer-free Nigeria. Beyond cervical cancer, our institute remains steadfast in its broader mission to combat all forms of cancer.
Away from the health sector, out of 1,955,069 candidates who sat for the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME, over 1.5 million of them scored less than 200 in the exam. The statistical analysis of 2025 UTME results released by the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board (JAMB) on Monday indicated that only 420,415 candidates scored above 200 in the 2025 edition of the UTME. The data show that 75% of candidates scored below 200 in the exam, with less than 1% scoring above 300. In the statement accompanying the data, JAMB said 40,247 underage candidates were permitted to demonstrate their exceptional abilities. However, only 467 of these candidates, 1.16%, achieved scores that made the threshold for exceptional ability as defined for the UTME, with their performance in the subsequent 3 stages still pending. Of the total number registered, 97 candidates were involved in examination infractions, while 2,157 others are currently undergoing investigations for suspected malpractices. As the world celebrates the 2025 World Press Freedom Day, the Nigerian Guild of Editors, NGE, and the Socio-Economic Right and Accountability Project, SEREP, have called for the suspension of the implementation of the Cybercrimes Act. The two groups made the demand at a joint press conference on unchecked injustice. Our authorities are weaponizing the Cybercrime Act to stifle peaceful, decent, and media freedom in Nigeria, in Lagos. Our correspondent Fatoki Kunle completes details in this report presented from our studios.
It is the 2025 World Press Freedom Day, the day set aside by the United Nations General Assembly to raise awareness on the importance of freedom of the press and remind governments of their duty to respect and uphold the right to freedom of expression. However, there appears to be a sharp rise in attacks on press freedom and civil liberties in Nigeria, with authorities being accused of weaponizing the Cybercrimes Act and other regulatory tools to stifle dissent, criminalized journalism, and target critics of the government. No wonder forums like these and others provided an avenue for journalists, groups on civil liberties, and others of like minds to mince no words in calling for an immediate suspension of the enforcement of the law until its problematic provisions are repealed or revised in line with Nigerians' obligations under international and domestic human rights law.
Unfortunately, we are talking about how authorities that should encourage media freedom are stifling it. And that's why it's a very concerning development, and the Guild and SERAP decided to take this upon ourselves for the authorities to look at, to stop using Cybercrime Act to arrest, detain, or generally disrupt the activities of media practitioners.
Deputy Director of Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, Kolawole Oluwadari, cited the Section 24 of the Cybercrimes Act, despite its 2024 amendment, as a legal weapon routinely used against journalists, bloggers, activists, and even ordinary citizens for expressing opinions online.
We are concerned that the Nigerian authorities have continued to use the Cybercrimes Act to normalize repression of the rights of journalists, bloggers, human rights defenders, opposition politicians, artists, and other Nigerians. We note that the suppression of the press in recent times takes various forms, ranging from extrajudicial to unlawful detention, disappearances, some of which are enforced, malicious prosecutions, and wrongful use of both legislation and law enforcement. We call on Nigerian authorities to stop the threat and attack against journalists, bloggers, human rights defenders, and activists, and to stop detaining and imprisoning them solely for doing their jobs. We call on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his government to publicly call all Nigerian state governors, the Nigerian police force, the DSS, and other security agencies to uphold and ensure full respect for the right of everyone in the country, including journalists, bloggers, human rights defenders, and activists.
Analysts and other speakers explained that the 2024 amendment of the Cybercrimes Act fell short of alignment with a 2022 judgment by the ECOWAS Court of Justice, which ruled Section 24 of the original law as vague, arbitrary, and in violation of international human rights treaties such as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights.
The Constitution is very clear, and there are enough provisions in our laws to prosecute people who have erred. If people have written false statements, people have libeled people have done something that is not accurate, there are ways of redressing this without having to use police to detain some people, individuals, even governors, commissioners, all sorts of people. What they don't like, even if it is online, they talk about cyber stalking.
Present and imminent danger to the whole of society. The act in various sections criminalizes even the air we breathe. And in a democracy, we cannot begin to criminalize even criticism. If the media and indeed law-abiding citizens are unable to criticize the government policies, programs, and even individuals who serve in government, that democracy is one that is in decline.
The Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, CGID, reported at least 110 verified attacks on media professionals so far in 2024, surpassing figures from previous years, including the widely criticized media clampdown of 2013. This year's World Press Freedom Day is expected to serve as a reminder to authorities in Nigeria of their duty to respect and uphold the right to freedom of expression in view of documented cases of prolonged detention and assaults on journalists covering protests in Lagos and Abuja, and the forced closure of independent media outlets in the northern states.